From one user making $3 million in a day to another user losing all of his savings, we're gonna go over the craziest Wall Street Bets trades of the winter. Smart Money 243 is a user who pulled a control the narrative and recorded himself losing millions of dollars. And cherry on top, this was money he inherited from his grandpa. Smart Money started his journey on Wall Street Bets about 2 years ago. Stock went down, yet I lost money on puts. I've been robbed. This is criminal. On March 28th of 2024, he said DJT puts are free money, which would be real ironic considering what his future held. After a few posts about Norfolk, let's flash forward to January 17th of this year. DJT was trading at just around $40, and he revealed that he YOLO'd nearly 1.3 mil into calls on the stock to try and capitalize off the hype around the inauguration. He privately bought these a few weeks prior and was already down over 120K. Worse than that, he felt like he was about to lose even more money and that this play may ruin his life. He knows he got caught holding the bag, but all he wanted to know now was whether or not things would be smooth sailing. He made a couple posts to the DJT stock subreddit talking about how everyone needed to man up. The stock was bound to go to the moon, so quit your complaining. Well, only a day later, he made another post that wasn't so optimistic. I'm a pathetic loser full of hopium. Smart Money 243 said, I'm making bullish comments and post on DJT, but I know it's over. We're not even at Tuesday. Nothing has happened yet, but I know I've made the worst decision of my life. He says DJT is guaranteed to crash. Why the heck did he have to throw Grandpa's hard-earned money on it? That gosh darn stupid Trump coin sucked all the money that would have been thrown at the stock instead. It's so over. But he ultimately doesn't give a hoot. He just hopes his grandpa forgives him, and now hates Trump for supposedly helping him ruin his life. Your average investor would probably say something like, hey man, why don't you just cut your losses and take this as a $100,000 lesson? But Smart Money is not your average investor. Over the weekend, he posted how scared he was and wanted to know what people would do if they lost all their money. All he got in return was a link to a Wendy's application. Finally, the market opened on Monday, and Smart Money recorded his live reaction. With this strange bag on his head, is this control the narrative making a secret comeback? Okay, maybe not, but he is definitely gonna need that bag to vomit in after he stops recording because holy smokes did things go bad. A lot of users would talk smack about him YOLOing the money his grandpa worked for, but other users like Early Monk just wanted to know what was up with his post history. Smart Money was now down $430,000. Was he gonna sell and walk away with 830K left? Nope. Later that day, he updated us with a new screenshot showing us that he was down another 180K. A questionable post later, and he was now down $700,000 total. Smart Money told the subreddit, "You guys tricked me into buying this." He made a follow-up post saying his wife wants to divorce him, but I'm thinking that this is just a joke. Hopefully. He also claims to have finally reached enlightenment after a user called him out on his YOLO. He's gonna use his years of experience, education, and, apparently critical thinking to better his life, maybe even put it all into VU. He says he's brave and courageous and now just wants to journal for his mental health. Despite his marriage being in shambles, he's now in a zen-like state and wants to take a break from Reddit. Well, he made another post later that day to let us know another 20K was chipped off of his portfolio. After speaking more words of wisdom, he returned the next day to show that he was now down $800,000. By January 27th, this loss grew another $200,000 to the big 7-figure mark. Despite being down 80%, he says he's not selling. Ever. The story might sound like it ends there, but right after this whole fiasco, Apple's The Tea came out with a hit piece on Smart Money. Story of the guy losing his inheritance in DJT is fake/embellished. If you use a tool to look at deleted Reddit posts, you'll be able to find that over a year ago, on the same day that his account was created, the following message can be found. I'll sum it up so you don't have to read the whole thing. Yes, I've built quite the post history. You're such a sweaty loser for having combed through all of it. No, it's not hard to become a Wall Street Bets legend. They are the largest collective of idiots on the internet. From the YouTube documentaries to the Wall Street Bets memes, they are completely ignorant of the truth. No, this post was not edited after the fact to fit the current situation. People never dig deeper to see what's under the surface. It's sad yet entertaining to witness so much ignorance. Apple's the team messaged Smart Money and he responded with, "Wow, you are good, lol. Pretty crazy to plan a troll a year in advance, haha, but good job. Out of curiosity, how do you manage to dig that stuff?" This is all some pretty incriminating evidence, but the thing is that we still don't know if Smart Money's post was real or not. Apple's Tati thinks maybe the amount that Smart Money shows is only half of his position in DJT, but that is also put into question because Smart Money of course showed screen recordings of his whole portfolio. A lot of people seem to agree that the trade was probably real after checking the options chain, which obviously can't be fakes, but feel like the whole story behind it is probably embellished or completely fake. Either way, this whole story was pretty crazy, and the trade itself was actually probably real for all we know, or at least part of a spread. So let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comments. Long Was Here is a user who we've covered before, but unlike Smart Money, is actually very trusted within the community. We last covered him back in November, and since then, he has no joke made tens of millions of dollars worth of trades. Towards the end of 2024, here are some of his notable trades: making $200K with Dogecoin, a $600,000 gain on Dell calls, $170K worth of gains from MicroStrategy, throwing millions into the same stock, gifting $10,000 to a friend's older sibling who used to give him car rides back in the day, and ending off the year by showing his $3.2 million position in Rivian. This all happened in the last month and a half of 2024, and the crazy part is that this isn't even the crazy part yet. He took it up at least 10 notches starting off 2025. A week into 2025, he placed a bunch of trades on Nvidia. It was January 6th, and Nvidia was trading at the highest price it had ever been in history. After it was all said and done, he walked away with about $200,000 in gains for the day. The very same day, he realized that it wasn't time to walk away just yet. He threw $1.7 million into puts on the stock. Only a few hours later, his contracts were up $124K. Then, a bit after that, he sold it all for a $250,000 gain. If he would have held 4 more days, his position would have 3x to $6 million. But hey, I'm not making $250,000 trades anyway, so I can't really judge. A few weeks later, he bought calls on 3x leveraged China Bull shares in honor of Chinese New Year. And just like that, another $200,000 gain in the books. 3 days later, he got ready to make one of his craziest trades yet. Rolling into February, he posted, "Dear Canada/Mexico, I would like one trade war please, preferably today, but can do over the weekend too, thanks." Long threw just under $1 million into at-the-money SPY puts that expired one trading day later, and it was Friday. If things didn't get wild over the weekend, his position could expire worthless. He posted this at 12:03 p.m. and was unfortunately down 33%, losing him $330,000 for the day. But to Long's surprise, something catastrophic was about to happen only an hour later. A few hours later, he posted a screenshot of his puts that were now up over $1 million for the day. This means they 3x'd in just 3 hours of the day. Long somehow did not feel like selling though, and was willing to hold over the weekend. He complained a bit about market manipulation, but this didn't matter. Everything went his way in the end. Markets were rough Monday morning, and Long's portfolio was looking better than ever. His puts were worth over $4.5 million and up 361% since he bought them. That means the puts fell 50% after buying them, then 9x'd in value to get him to this point, which is definitely a roller coaster of a trade. Smelly Fingernail is a user who can somehow read the prophecy. On January 24th, he bought $19K worth of Nvidia puts and said that China has trained a state-of-the-art model with barely any compute costs. It's over for the Nvidia train. A lot of people sat back and laughed at Smelly Fingernail. Sounds like calls to me. I have a spoiler for you. You also need GPUs to run AI models effectively. This has nothing to do with Nvidia. Nvidia produces the GPUs, not the AI models. True regard. You are dumbs. And so many more. Things were off to a decent start that day, and his puts rose to 27K by the end of the trading week. He was up 43%, but he was confident that Nvidia still had some more falling to do. In fact, he made the bold prediction that the stock would have a huge gap down on Monday. He gave a few good reasons as to why this would happen, basically saying that DeepSeek's effect on Nvidia would be massive. More haters rolled through in the comments with, "Bro needs to read more about DeepSeek. These will expire worthless." And bears desperately trying to push this agenda to cling to the last of their welfare checks. Little did Smelly Fingernail know, he was about to prove everyone wrong, by a lot. That Monday, the bell rung, and holy moly, Nvidia was not headed to the moon, but actually straight back down to wherever it came from on Earth. Nvidia was immediately down 12% at open, and Smelly Fingernail came back to the subreddit to let everyone know he was the chosen one. His $19,000 position rocketed to more than $100,000 of value. Best part about the whole situation is that he actually locked in his profits for just under 100K total. This was impeccable timing because the very next trading day, Nvidia jumped 9%. He basically bought and sold at the perfect time. Trying to make money in the stock market is pretty difficult. One thing that seemingly always works though is claiming sign-up bonuses. Thanks to our sponsor bankrewards.io, they make it easy to find and redeem sign-up bonuses for a variety of different banks and brokerages. Moomoo and Chime offer over $100 in 5 free stocks for simply transferring $300. Let's be honest, that's basically free money if you're willing to sign up. That's all for our sponsor. If you're interested, check out the link in the description. Broken Bear is a user who started his journey on WallStreetBets with only $800. Accounts this size might get booed off the court, but boy oh boy did he come out swinging. He decided to focus on trading QQQ and throw in a few AMD calls. His first day of trading, he took his $800 into 2100. 148% in a day is crazy, but he had an even crazier trade the following day, up 169% to 5.1K. Back at it again the next day for another $2.2 thousand gain, and honestly, he just kept winning his trades over the next few days, so let's breeze through them. 9.6K to 12.2K, 16K to 18.1K, finally to 25.3K on January 20th. After 31xing his money in a week, Broken Bear was no longer broken. After being asked if he took his money and ran, he said, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Ha 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 ha. He better hope his AMD calls pull through. He also picked up an additional 5K worth of Netflix calls. The very next day, Netflix reported their earnings, and to his delight, the company added more subscribers to their platform in a quarter than ever before in history. The stock jumped nearly 10%, and with the help of a few other positions, Broken Bear's portfolio had once again doubled in value. Up 6,800% from his start 2 weeks ago, he now had a portfolio worth $50,000. No break needed. He threw 20K into at-the-money DJT puts that expired just a few weeks later. The stock fell over 10% the next day, and his puts doubled in value. He didn't want to sell yet though. He was waiting for the stock to fall an additional $3 to $26.50. Broken Bear is seemingly still YOLOing his money, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things end up for him. Convex Dominant 6 is a user who we've covered not too long ago, but he's already back making big moves as always. At the start of January, Convex Dominance felt like Nvidia was primed to make him some money. On January 2nd, Nvidia was trading at just about $138. Convex Dominance woke up that morning and thought he might as well throw 133K into options that expire tomorrow. Nvidia ripped 4.5% the next day alone, and his calls flew up 542%, taking his position to 857K. 3 days later, he was back at it again. This time, he decided to get in on the DJT hype before the inauguration. Sounds a little familiar. Anyway, he threw $324,000 into way out of the money calls that expired in 3 weeks. This is of course a risky play given DJT's pretty much meme stock status at this point, but his trade was off to a good start and he was up over 20K before the day was even over. Over the next 3 days though, the stock fell 2.5% and things were moving slower than expected. It was the weekend and the stock needed some rest for what was to come on Monday. On this exciting Monday, DJT jumped 21.5%. Convex Dominance had doubled his money. It seems like he sold enough to cover his initial cost and let the rest ride out to the moon. Well, flash forward 2 weeks, and the contracts would have expired worthless if he held. He never mentioned if he walked away with a gain, but it seems like he at least broke even based on his replies. 11 days later, Convex Dominance came back with a YOLO 3 times as big as his last one. He YOLO'd almost $1 million into a stock that is down 70% over the past 3 years. The stock in question was Block. Convex Dominance talked about how the CEO of the company, Jack Dorsey, is a huge Bitcoin bull. He also brings up Block's increasing revenue, but relatively stagnant share price, which may hint that the stock is undervalued. He says Block is just as much of a Bitcoin play as these other companies that have rocketed in the past 4 months. The only problem was that Jack Dorsey likes to move a bit mysteriously and doesn't like to pump his own stock like a few other CEOs do. That being said, Block was destined to pump at least about 15%. On January 8th, he threw $800K into out-of-the-money calls that expired a month and a half later. 2 weeks later, his position rose 25% to the big $1 million mark. Since then, he hasn't given us any new updates, but assuming he held, his calls would be up another $175K as of February 1st. C Benefit 1818 is someone who got a gain most of us can only dream of. C Benefit started off pretty modestly though. Back on December 5th, he threw $1,700 into 1 DTE Amazon calls and quickly 4x'd his money. A few weeks later, he threw $10K into Google puts, and honestly, things were looking a bit scary. His calls expired the next day, and he was only in the money by 40 cents, which meant he wasn't very likely to make any profit on the trade. Luckily for him though, the whole market was down the next day, and Google in particular was down 1.5%. He didn't want to wait for his calls to be exercised, so he sold them that morning for a $14,000 gain. A week later, on January 2nd, he made a quick move and bought some out-of-the-money 1 DTE Netflix puts for $27K. He didn't even wait a day though, and sold them a few hours later for a $25,000 gain. The very next day, he updated us with his now $62,000 portfolio that was up 1,300% the past month thanks to his plays on Netflix and Google. Even after 14xing his portfolio, he still wanted more. 3 days later, he threw $32K into SPY calls, and just like that, he walked away with another $19,000 gain. C Benefit took the notch and turned it all the way up to level 100 though, because on the same exact day, he bought $93,000 worth of 0 DTE SPY puts. So he got a 60% gain on 0 DTE SPY calls that morning, sold them, proceeded to take a full 180 and YOLO'd everything into options contracts that were aiming in the opposite direction. As crazy as it is, this led him to having his most successful day yet. That 93K turned into 149K in a few hours. His total portfolio was now worth $150,000, and he was up 160% for the day alone. He was up 3,100% over the past month, but since January 6th, he hasn't given us any updates, so hopefully his portfolio is still good and well. Short Lemon 4355 is a user who just quit his job to trade options full-time. Short Lemon said he was making about $2,400 a month after taxes from his job and was just overall sick and tired of the work conditions he was put through. He decided he was done with the rat race and figured he could make enough money trading options anyway. The big kicker though was that Short Lemon only had $1,500 in his portfolio. He admits that he's always been an impulsive risk taker, but I think we can all agree that he's jumping the gun quite a bit early by retiring with most people's monthly rent. Anyway, he quit his job and got to work on Robinhood. Luckily for him, things were off to a positive start. His first 2 weeks of being a full-time trader, he got $3,000 in gains, which means that he 3x'd his money. 2 weeks after that, and he made another $1,200. Short Lemon just made double his monthly pay and says that he has never been happier with the freedom. Short Lemon started getting a bit cocky though by making posts like, "I quit my job with $1,500. Now I'm making $5,000 a month." He even launched his campaign and posted to the Ask Me Anything subreddit, willing to bless people with all the professional knowledge he gained over the past month. Maximum Elderberry 97 said he didn't even pay taxes on the profit or bills yet. Not sustainable. LMFAO. This kid is gonna work at Wendy's less than 3 months from now. Short Lemon said, no. It's already been a month and a half. Let's see if I can make it another month and a half. He even says that he can start a corporation to mitigate taxes. Just the price he has to pay for his freedom. Lucky Ducky is a user who, well, is a lucky duck. After losing again and again, he finally got his hands on a crazy trade. Lucky Ducky's story begins a couple years ago, except he wasn't initially trading with lots of money. Only at the end of 2024 did he start taking things to the next level. He allowed $1,500 into Archer calls and almost 14x'd his money. Now with $20,000 in his portfolio, he was ready to make his next big trade. Except his next big trade would lose him 5k, and the one after that would lose him 7k, and the one after that brought him down to about $5,000 total in his portfolio. Lucky Ducky couldn't believe he had just blown through most of his gains. He figured it was time to pick everyone's favorite trading strategy, and that was trading 0 DTE SPY contracts. Nothing else to really add to the story, he just went from 6k to 19k to 30k to finally 101k. Lucky Ducky 20x'd his money, but unlike some other users on the subreddit, he acknowledges that luck was a huge part of his win. He didn't really know what he was doing, like most of us, but things just so happened to go his way.